Okay. All right, council. I'll try that again. All right, council. Folks, welcome to the meeting of the District of Sechelt Council, February 7th, it being 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. We have the agenda in front of us, and are there any amendments or conflicts? Not. I'll entertain a motion to adopt as presented and seconded. All in favor? Carried. Note that Councillor McLaughlin is not with us. Haven't heard, but hopefully she'll arrive. Without further ado, I guess we call on Mr. Royer to talk about the Sunshine Coast Chamber of Commerce, along with Mr. Martinson. Welcome. And I think you know the drill. Press the button on the microphone. Nope. There, it's on.
Okay, it's on.
And look over, if you want to look at the camera, it's over there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Gaetan Royer. I'm the interim chair of the new Sunshine Coast Chamber of Commerce, and with me is Doug Martinson. He was with the Gibson's Chamber of Commerce and a task force member with the merger. Ron Badley is a representative from Pender Harbor. He's not here tonight. Merging three chambers has been talked about for years, for many years. It's been tried a few times, and our outreach has shown that the vast majority of Sunshine Coast business owners want one chamber to represent the coast. We early on, I looked for a URL and I searched for that, and I said, shucks, it's been taken already. And I realized it had been purchased in 2018 during one of those early trials. So 6 years later, it's going to be finally in use, and the website is being prepared as we speak. We took a very business approach to this merger. We wrote a letter of intent with a clear purpose. We set key principles, and we had all three boards of the three chambers adopt that letter of intent, contribute money, and authorize the hiring of a facilitator. So each chamber appointed a member to a task force, and we deliberately called it a task force. We didn't want to call it a committee. Committee tends to become something that's permanent and drags on, and we wanted to have the word force in there to put some force behind our efforts. We were given a clear mandate by the three legacy chambers and authority to make decisions. Doug, Ron, and I became very collegial through this process. Every decision was taken by consensus. The task force is going to be dissolved as soon as the job is done, and the three chambers are set to be dissolved by March 31st. We didn't create a new position. We hired a short-term contract facilitator, and Janice Iverson was the gift from the gods. She's been absolutely fabulous helping us. She's an expert in governance and very efficient at what she does. We publicized our letter of intent in our respective newsletters in the media. We over-communicated. We wanted to attach a lot of importance to that. Our communication plan included frequent contacts with membership, using in-person meetings, newsletters, phone calls, opportunities for people to for Q&A. Actually, Mayor Henderson participated in one of those meetings. In several communities, we had two meetings. The first one well attended. The second one, nobody showed up because they had heard about it and they were satisfied with the extent of our listening to people as we went along. All three votes in the three communities were unanimous by all the membership. So we were very proud that day. I think you already know that I strongly believe in strategic plan. I facilitated these plans, including the recent Scredo strategic plan. In 2022 and again in 2023, not council, but our board had set a clear direction to collaborate with others. And I think that played a key role in this merger. This is the strategic direction that guided the Sechelt Chamber of Commerce during our merger discussions. We put together a new Sunshine Coast strategic plan for the interim period. This plan is basically heavily focused on governance and getting the back of the house ready to operation. It's if I show the next slides in terms of visionary projects, that's to come in the future. And that's going to be left to a new board to sit down and do its own strategic plan after the first AGM. So we're an interim board, self-appointed, but we are driving very forcefully to come to an AGM, very likely in May, at which time a new permanent board is going to be appointed, elected to lead the new chamber. We are, this is the action list that I'm just scrolling fast that's emerged from that strategic plan, and we love nothing more than getting things checked off as done on that list. We're quietly launching a founding partners program. It's not so quiet now that with hundreds of people online watching this, I guess. But Trail Bay Mall is going to be part of the offerings to the chamber membership to publicize themselves, but it's also going to be improved. It's not much to look at right now, that space, but we're going to improve it and make it available to members to host meetings and so on. As we celebrate the creation of this new Sunshine Coast Chamber of Commerce, we think people are going to want to attach their name to it as founding members. So if you or your business is interested in contributing, please contact me or contact Ed. And if you don't find the amount that's suitable, you want to contribute more, let's talk. What we're here to ask for you tonight is not money. We're not here to ask for a contribution. We want to remain an independent voice for the business community. But we'd like to continue the monthly opportunity for local governments to exchange with us. So we'd like you to appoint a community liaison to our new Sunshine Coast Chamber of Commerce. And we currently enjoy the contribution of Adam Shepherd. Councillor Shepherd has been attending most of our meetings and well, all of our meetings actually. And we want to continue the same practice. We're going to have somebody from the SCRD, hopefully, as well as Gibson's to represent those local governments. In closing, I'd like to thank the volunteers that have helped us, Arthur Cullingham from Carter Ellis Law, Spencer Keys, Chart House Lawyers, Justin Wright, a certified professional accountant. And then we have Will Kirchhoff from Sunshine Coast Credit Union. Then the new Chamber of Commerce board members that have joined us recently, in addition to Doug, Ron, and I, is David Blakebach. He's a chartered accountant, and Mickey McCartney. Janice Iverson, as I said, has been extraordinary as a facilitator, and the interim executive director is Ed Bedno, continuing from the Sechelt Chamber of Commerce. So with my colleagues, we're really proud of what's been accomplished in a very short time by these volunteers, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much. Council, Councillor Inkster. Whoops. Didn't kick in.
Oh. I think the regional district changes a different color. So that's not helpful. It's good to see this. This has been talked about over a number of years, as you may know from being here. Mr. Roy, you're more recently here, but being someone who's been here since the 4 years, and you've been very active, and good for you, some of the things you've been doing in the community, and maybe adding that encouragement to these groups to come together. I've been here for many years, and this has been talked about since the 90s. And before I was on council, I was really active in the chamber. We did a number of big events, including a couple of big, huge wine and cheese events. It was just good to see. And the local chamber hasn't done as many of those as I can remember more recently. So it'd be good to see some of those cool socials come back. There's synergies within larger amounts of businesses and business people involved. So let's see what happens in terms of the socials to engage the local politicians rather than just at meetings, to come to the socials so we can have those conversations about business activities and our support for that on the Sunshine Coast. I was wondering though, is this one chamber a sneak attack on one government?
On one government?
It's
Okay,
yeah.
there's
No,
a
we're,
question.
Yeah.
I was at the Gibson's council meeting last night.
Yeah.
I didn't get to speak and present, but it's going to come later. I'm going to be at SCRD tomorrow.
No, I meant
But,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
another view on your question is
Yeah.
that, so oftentimes we got the response in the beginning. "Well, yeah, about time, when's all those governments gonna start to join
Yeah.
together as one?"
Right.
That's what I figured.
I'm going to stay away from.
Yeah, that's not tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a good start. Yeah, Counselor Bell?
Just a comment. Oh, oops. First of all, thank you for the presentation. This is an exciting time. And I think this looks like a very well thought out plan and very rigorous. And I think that's tremendous. It's what a strong chamber can do, a lot of great things in a community. So thank you for this. So my understanding, you're not looking for for money tonight. You're looking for brains. Is that the thing?
That's right.
Okay, good clarification.
We'll get to the business in a moment, but Counselor Top?
Thank you. Just a quick one in that I assume, in coming to us asking for a liaison, you're also going to be asking for a liaison from the town of Gibsons and the regional district?
Yes.
So the regional district one, is that part of tomorrow's presentation, I guess?
Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor Rowe?
Not a question, but just congratulations. I would agree that this is a massive amount of work that you've been able to accomplish. And I really like the looks of even this, the things that you're considering in this short first 2 years, and the real focus on engagement and government governance. I really appreciate that. And I guess I'm curious how Councillor Shepherd might feel about continuing his attendance.
Sounds like a motion.
I'm going to make a motion that Councillor Shepherd is liaison for the new and improved Sunshine Coast Chamber of Commerce.
And
Oh,
and there's a very quick second. Any? Well, Counselor Shepherd.
No, I'd be very interested in continuing on if they'll have me. I've really enjoyed the monthly meetings. There's I think this effort's going to really revitalize the chamber, so I'm excited to take part in it. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Okay, my one comment, somewhere I was pleased to see recognition of the legacy of the previous chambers, and that the new chamber will sustain that and make an effort, because there is a lot of history, as Councillor Inkster would know more than the rest of us young ones. So that's really important, because our chambers go back to 1945 and 46, I think. So that's we got to hold on to that.
We were talking just about that earlier tonight at the meeting, and I think it would be important to list past presidents of past chair of the chamber, as well as recognizing where this is coming from.
Yeah.
And the creation of boards of trade and so on. So yeah, it's important.
Very good. Council, we have a question before us. You ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. You
All right,
have your
Council, that's
liaison.
okay. I
Thank
got
you,
an answer.
Mr. Royer and Mr. Martinson,
Thanks very much.
very much for everything you've been doing. And
Thanks a lot.
congratulations, Councillor Shepherd. Council, we then move to item 5.1, which is the Municipal Finance Authority short-term borrowing resolution, and we have the report from Mr. Douglas. Council, do you have any questions on the report? Councillor Top?
Thank you. I'm sure we've heard the answer to this, but I don't recall the answer, so I'm gonna ask it again. When we're looking at the $330,000 to $360,000 a year payment, what is that going to represent for the capital costs for the sewer users? Thank you.
Great, thank you. I had that highlighted to be reminded. Will there be, I guess another way of phrasing it, Mr. Douglas, will there need to be like an increase in the user fees or?
The
parcel taxes?
current sewer budget has this included. So we're looking at a 3.96% user fee increase, and so this would be
Wrapped
included in
into
that.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's
That's great.
good
We
timing.
have one debt falling off
Right.
next year, so it's
Yeah.
it's a
Wa-
good
the
time to get
Water
ready.
Resource Center will be fully paid in
Yeah.
12 months. So, Councillor Inkster.
Always looking at rates. Mr. Douglas, 561. I see that there. I guess last year or something like that, was that like 3%?
Yeah, that would be about probably 1.5 to 2 years.
Year and a
But
half to
this
2
is
years
a,
ago.
this is a variable rate, so as interest rates fall, this will fall as
Yeah.
well.
As we hope they do, this will fall. So our
Yes.
interest charge will go down,
Yes.
hopefully.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Okay. Would you like to make, well, any other questions? And if not, would anybody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Shepherd, this motion, second, Councillor Inkster.
I'll move recommendation 1 on page 5.
Very good, thank you. And seconded, Councillor Inkster. Any other questions? All in favor? All in favor? Carried. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Douglas. We then go to the Development Density Floor Area Ratios and Building Heights Report. And Mr. Pearson will bring his name tag and don't have to bring that. While he's getting settled, we'll also recognize that we have our acting chief administrative officer for this week is Mr. Andrew Allen. Mr. Yates is on a well-deserved week of holiday, I believe. Okay, so Mr. Pearson, there's a lot in your report and perhaps there's something you want to highlight or how do you want to proceed? Floor is yours. How about that?
Thanks, your worship. Pleasure to be in front of you tonight and council. So we're talking about official community plan amendment bylaw number 49235. And council last reviewed this bylaw in November, just 3 months ago for first reading, and that was granted. And now we're going through we've gone through the consultation process that's required by the Local Government Act. And the report in front of you tonight mentions which agencies and bodies this bylaw was referred to. And some of the comments we received are contained in the report. The first report that went to council last year for first reading went into a fair amount of background detail about what floor area ratio is, how it's calculated, what it means for density, And this report today does not go into that same level of detail. This report is in front of you to consider second reading of the bylaw. The bylaw is attached as the bylaw is attached to the report, and there's a number of other attachments. But basically, it boils down to replacing figure 17 in the current OCP with a new figure 17. And that new figure 17 is Schedule A of the proposed bylaw. And an explanation of the proposed changes are in attachment 2 of the report. Attachment 1 is the existing figure 17. Attachment 3 is a number of maps and images to explain more or less where the amendment would apply to. It would apply to actually all residential designations in Sechelt. There's one image in there as well, which gives an example of existing and proposed floor area ratios based on several applications that have come in front of council since 2018 to increase floor area ratio. The premise of this report coincides with the provincial Bill 44, which is mandating municipalities and local governments around the province to basically increase density in residential areas. And the proposed amendment is consistent with Bill 44.
Very good, thank you. Council, I see a microphone on, but I think, yeah, okay, very good. Councillor Shepherd.
Through the chair, I just wondered, I see the letter from the West Sechelt Community Association. Did you respond to the letter and the concerns? Thank you.
Your worship, I met with actually the manager of planning, and I met with 4 representatives from the West Sechelt Community Association. We met here in this room about 2 weeks ago, and we went over the concerns. I have to say, not all the concerns can be addressed with this amendment, but at least we had dialogue, and I listened to them and they listened to us, and that's about all I can say right now.
No, thank you very much. I'm really glad that you did have the opportunity to meet with them. Appreciate the reaching out.
Councillor Inkster. Thank you. No.
Was indicated that we tried to meet some of their concerns, and it sounds like we'll be talking to them some more. It's the largest, I think, community. I'm quite sure, but I always say I think when I'm not 100% sure, the largest populated community in Sechelt, and it's the largest growth area in Sechelt. It's also interesting that the infill area that they refer to is an area that could be considered the downtown slopes of Sechelt as we go up the hill here. So it's so there was a designation made a number of years ago that West Sechelt would come all the way to the downtown core. And so it does, it stretches there. And so the consideration is that, but there's also, if you've done that, then there's more of a consideration for single family in those areas, when in fact, if the designation would have been slightly different, we could have considered more density in those areas. If you understand what I'm saying, if the line to West Sechelt in the downtown could have drawn up the hill a little more, we could have had more clear lines of density within the municipality, which is supported by, it looks like, the Downtown Association, which we've not necessarily been hearing at our table that there's support for that. But I'm glad that the association, which represents a number of people, has said that density in the downtown core should be strongly considered. So I think that as we engage the largest community in Sechelt, it'll be interesting to see that discussion, because there needs to be density. When we first started, when I was on council first and we started approving developments, I remember single family homes in West Sechelt. We approved hundreds of lots because there was a need for housing. Now but because everyone wanted a single family home. But now things have changed where because of affordability and trying to make sure that we use the land better, we're looking at densification. So there's an evolution. But this will be interesting because as we go forward, we'll be going to public hearing from the community. I've always been strongly supportive of density, but there's some concerns in the community as to what effects that will have in certain neighborhoods. So, thanks.
Great, thank you. Counselor Talk.
Thank you. Looking at the new proposed, I guess it'll be table 17 once it's inserted, but we do have reference to proposed height in stories. And there is a little note here that says that one story is approximately 4 meters. I'm just wondering if we've got something more defined than approximately 4 meters within the OCP currently or proposed. And if there was any thought given to, rather than putting in, stories, just a building height. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I think we got a query on that earlier today from the public.
Thanks, Your Worship. Appreciate the question. And we did receive an email this afternoon from Tillicum Bay Neighborhood Association.
We've heard of them.
And really good question. It really points to what an OCP is and where it falls within the regime of our policies and bylaws, not only here, but all local governments that have OCPs. An OCP is a statement of objectives and policies for the municipality. They're not meant to be regulations. There's meant to be a bit of wiggle room when we set policies, almost like guidelines. And where we actually get into detailed metrics is with the zoning bylaw. So when you want to really set a limit on height, it's the zone that does that. This is basically setting out a framework for what could be over the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know if that answers your question. It's a good question, and it's a difficult one to answer.
Okay, so that implies then each zone will have to define what a story is?
No. Basically, the zones that we have now use meters.
Okay, I see.
And those measurements are precise, whereas the OCP policies refer to stories. And a story is anywhere from 3 meters to 4 meters, could even be more than 4 meters. The idea is that we don't want the OCP to be so prescriptive like a zoning bylaw. So there's room for possibly going over that through a zoning change.
So as council, we're gonna have to be vigilant that we are clear about each of the potential zones and rezoning or variances or other questions, council? Councilor Bell?
Yeah, and I don't know if it really, if the question makes sense, but I'm just thinking in terms of, as I look at this, and there was a good rigorous consultation, and some people, number of groups didn't reply in terms of giving feedback. And reading on page 9 around the residential areas are all affected by the new provincial legislation with respect to the small density, but mostly serviced by SCRD water. So how does that conversation happen in terms of as we look at increased density, and where does that conversation intercept?
The water question is huge for any new development in Sechelt, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
This bylaw amendment for you today for second reading, it doesn't hinge on the water question with the SCRD. However, staff have been in consultation with SCRD staff at a technical level recently, and I understand that there's going to be a presentation tomorrow by the regional district. I could get into a big conversation about the small scale multi-unit housing legislation known as SHMU or SMU
Yes.
or SMA. And we could talk about that. There's different parameters. If a property is serviced with water and sewer and it's residential zoned, then it can have 4 units on it. That's what the provincial law says. And we have to adjust our zoning bylaw to meet that by June. So we are under pressure, and there's some strict timelines on us for zoning. And the zoning doesn't necessarily have to meet the OCP if it's going to align with SHMU. So that's a special regulation by the province granted.
Thank you.
Great.
Does that help? I don't know.
Yeah,
We went from water to SHMU.
Tishmu. Well, I mean, I certainly think that this is something that is the question on many municipalities' mind right now in terms of what's coming down from the province and the impact it's going to have overall on infrastructure, et cetera. So I guess stay tuned is basically, you know, what's going to happen. So thank you. though.
Thanks, Councillor
It's
Bell.
not an easy answer right now.
No, but I'd like to pursue that a little bit because we're making a lot of preliminary decisions based on Bill 44 as it's been represented. And of course, it goes to the legislature, and in theory, things could be changed. And so my underlying question is this what makes sense for Sechelt, even if there was no Bill 44 in the wind? Acting Chief Administrative Officer, Alan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'll be brief. And this is something we've been discussing for 3 or 4 years now. And so yes, absolutely makes sense for Sechelt. If you look at some of the more recent development approvals within the downtown core, be it Telus Living, Ebtide developments, or the ongoing Shorncliffe, they've all appeared in the right, correct OCP designation. It's just that, and I'll use the one on Ebtide as a prime example. Using units per hectare as the metric, garnered 7 large townhomes that was on the market unsuccessfully for a period of time, changed ownerships. Now using Fourier ratio, it garners 28 rental units of 1 bedroom or studio suite in a suitable location, really without changing the size of the building to a great degree. So really, it's just about modernizing our expectations of density in the appropriate locations, and absolutely does make sense for Sechelt and dovetails nicely with the direction from the province, as well as the federal government through the Housing Accelerator Fund. So we do believe we're on the right track here. Yes.
Good, thank you. So we could always lead the rest of the governments. Maybe we are. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our head planner saying SHMU a lot over the next couple of years. One of the
I
things
have a
with
kill button on my microphone, Councillor Inkster.
I make my jokes quick because I know you have that. The interesting part about the water issue that we're all going to be talking about for the next number of years, because our area is growing, is a couple of things. If we start looking at densification, which is most likely needed because the affordability piece is contained therein, we may have to start talking about gray water systems within the densification. And that may deal with our water, that may help us with our water problem, because we know from the figures we've received that the water consumption goes up when we need to water gardens, lawns, and food gardens and flower gardens. So we still need to start looking at gray water, be more serious about that. But also to the water issue, I think with densification, I think it will be the numbers of fixtures that will be reduced with densification, which may help with less water consumption and low flow everything and low flow appliances. We just don't need the water like we've been using. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this progresses, but we need to be proactive. It's not just about, it's about how we use our water, just not about new sources. Thanks.
Very good. Okay, council, we have this before us ultimately with your pleasure for second reading, but on page 8, we've got 2 recommendations. Is that a motion or? Yep.
Yeah, could I make a motion to recommend items 1 and 2 on page 8?
Great, thank you. And seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Then we go to, oops, my Where did it go? There's so many. Go to the bylaw. Page 23, thank you. Yep, very good. So this is before us for second reading, bylaw number 492-35, 2023. On page 23. Move seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of second reading? All in favor of second reading? Carried. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Yeah.
Thank you.
thanks. Great. Then council will go to item 6.2, which is 5981 Shoal Way. And this is, we'll recall, we've seen this a few times. It's before us for adoption. How would you like to proceed, folks? I'll jump at once. Yep, yep. I did put it on the tip, you know, yes. I would love for you to, okay, yes. Yes, no, there's second. Okay, we'll go. We've generally not been receiving reports, but okay, fire away. Yeah.
Thank you. Just a question again about, because I just don't see it here. It's the road access, links. It's a half road. Still, what's the, I'm really struggling with this because it shows a half road here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to recognize that Mr. Hall, our development planning manager, has joined us online. So, Mr. Hall, can you want to comment on that?
Sure. I guess anytime you see a half road, it's really just referring to the width of the road dedication. So typically we'll have a full road dedication would be 20 meters wide. So a half road becomes 10 meters wide. But we're still talking about a 2-lane road. It's just the paved surface fits within the 10 meters in the same way it does within the 20 meters. There's just within the half road, the idea is that at some point in the future, the other half of the road dedication will be acquired from the neighboring property so that the road can then be expanded and realigned to fill the full 20-meter width. And then obviously that provides more room for additional infrastructure, but everything, the road that goes within the half road dedication, the 10 meters, still has to be a full road, still has to be 2 lanes, have all the infrastructure needed for the development. It's just a difference in the dedication width between 20 meters versus 10.
So perhaps it's more elegant when we get the second half, but it's functional at 10.
Yeah, it's always functional within the half road dedication, like it has to be functional. But obviously when we talk about a full and complete road, typically it's the 20 meters. You'll see in some instances it might be 18 or 16, but 20 meters is the full road dedication.
Okay, Councillor Exper?
So we're hearing then that it's going to be a 2-lane road,
10 meters wide.
10 meters wide. Larger vehicles can pass on that road. That's what we're hearing?
Yeah, the 2-lane road is always functional within the half road dedication. It has to be. So it has to provide for emergency access. It has to provide for solid waste vehicles, all of that.
It's paved.
So that's yes.
So it's
Yes, paved, everything.
Okay. I just asked because there's the concerns in the neighborhood where more people being neighborhood, then they're using the half road to try to get in access to those 2 subdivisions adjacent to. So we just don't want to have, I've seen a number of half roads in West Sechelt. They were there for a while. And you just don't want vehicles when there's been some concerns having to go around each other. So it sounds like Mr. Hall is saying that's not going to happen. It will be.
No, I think
moving.
he's saying that
Yeah.
the roads are wide enough to.
Yeah.
For functionality. but
Functionality, okay.
It'll be even nicer when we get the other
Get the
side
other piece.
developed.
Okay.
Councillor Shepherd.
Sorry, that answers my question about what triggers the full road being built out, so that helps, but if I could take this
Yep.
opportunity to ask another question. Something that was happening during earlier readings was the community or the amenity. Bit of confusion over the number of units, how it was going to be handled. Could I ask planning how that ended up being? Is it set now what the amenity is? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Hall?
Sure, yeah, in terms of the proposed 6 units of affordable housing or that would be transferred to a nonprofit housing society to be maintained, that's all secured via a restrictive covenant that will be registered on title of the property. So the way the covenant is set up, we're looking at the sort of the 2 scenarios, one where they transfer all 6 units to a nonprofit society for them to own and maintain as affordable rental units. And then in the case where some or all of those units are not transferred to the society, maybe they can't or don't want to take them all, or the agreement doesn't happen, then we have secured a community amenity contribution based on the council policy, so that then for every unit that they don't transfer to the nonprofit society, a payment is required based on that amenity policy calculation.
Mr. Hall, I think the question is more, what is the status of those conversations?
Oh, well, as far as we know, the goal is still for the nonprofit society to take on the units. We haven't had any.
Is agreed.
As far as we know, that's still the intent. But the covenant will secure both options. So in the case that the agreement fails to be completed, we still get the amenity contribution.
Thanks for describing that again. So has there been a discussion or an agreement finished with the Affordable Housing Society?
Oh, okay.
Not that we've seen, no.
And that would fall, first of all, to the developer?
Yes.
I see the developer's representative waving frantically. So come in, maybe you can help us, Mr. Shirley.
I wouldn't call that frantic. We have been going back and forth with the district's lawyer to draft the covenant. There is a letter of undertaking that the owner has signed. Because the covenant is not officially registered yet, basically confirming that we're tightening up the language, but it will be registered at land titles. In terms of marketing the units, REDMA does not allow us to make an offer at this time because we don't even have the zoning in place yet. That's what we're here for tonight.
REDMA?
Real Estate Marketing Act. So it's too early at this time legally to sort of make an offer officially. But certainly they've taken notice of, the discussions we've been having and have some interest in it. So when we can officially have those conversations, we will. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Shirley. Council, anything else? Because I think, did I get a motion? Yeah. Yep. So on page 25, we'd be voting on recommendations, and then we'll go to the amendment bylaws themselves. Is that clear? Everybody clear? Ready for the question? All in favor 1 and 2 on page 25. Carried. All right, that then takes us to page 26, which is bylaw number 492-31, 2022. And this is before us for adoption. And I note that we'll have to amend the document because adoption will be in 2024. Wow, another year. Moved, Councillor Tough. Second, Councillor Rowe. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And then we go to the zoning amendment bylaw, and that's on page 28. This is bylaw number 580-02, 2022. for adoption on today's date. Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Sorry. Counselor Inkster. Okay, thank you. No, we do that ourselves. We're good at that now. Very good. Thank you. I'll make sure I don't have missed anything, have I, on that one? Nope. We just did. Second bylaw. Yeah. No, we were voting on page 28. Yeah, 2024. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Shirley, for your help. And without further ado, I guess we move to item 6.3, which is Sergeant Road and the road closure. Council, do you have any questions? Been before us before, so certainly don't want to rush it, but please, Councillor Toth.
Well, I'll rush it then. I'm gonna move the recommendations on page 30 as presented.
Very good, thank you. Is there a seconder? Second, any discussion? Okay, I'll call a question. Making sure I'm not missing anybody. All in favor? Carried. So we then go to the bylaw number 602. Gee, no dash, 602, 2022. And this is as well before us. Oh, look at that, in 2024 for adoption. This is on page 34 and 35. Motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for all of that. Council, we then move to item 7.1, which is what everybody's here for, is reviewing our minutes from the last few meetings. And anything before we do so? Any corrections, amendments, anything? Not? I will entertain a motion from Councillor Bell for adoption. Thank you. Seconded. This is for the January 17th regular council meeting. All in favor of adoption? Inkster, you with us? Yes. Why not? Yeah. Oh, there's you and others.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll revisit unwind the almost completed motion. So on page 43, under 10.2, Councillor Inkster and a group of volunteers. Okay. The CYSA, right? Okay, is attempting to bring it, okay. Everybody okay with that amendment? Okay, but these are minutes, so at that point I do remember you saying attempting, so I think we'll just add the clarification, the SCYSA. Okay, as amended, being a little bit fast and loose for the council's okay with that? Adoption as amended, all in favor? Carried. And January 24th, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. And okay, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you. Second, thank you. All in favor? Well, I'll make sure. Anything to add or amend? Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Carried. We then go to the Sunshine Coast Regional District Representatives Reports on item 9.1. Who wants to take this on? Because it's just been a relaxing week for you two. Yes. Counselor Toth did another, have it on good authority, did another excellent job in chairing the Finance Committee or the budget meetings on Monday and Tuesday. So thank you again, Counselor Toth. Anything you want to add other than it's hard to keep up because you were chairing the meeting?
Yeah, I didn't exactly get an opportunity to take a lot of notes while running the meeting, but 2 long days, went into it hoping we'd get done in 1 day, which was clearly a foolish idea. I did circulate to council the sort of preliminary taxation impacts after round 2. These are still to be confirmed, so I'm hesitant to, publish them or encourage them to be published yet, but there will be something further coming out soon. I guess there was one question about deficits and things like that, and looking at the list of items that I sent out. So summary of impacts would be there was an emergency program deficit of $37,000. And then there were also changes to community partners for $20,000, an increase to general government for $95,000, plus the increases that are attributed to contract wage increases, which isn't actually listed on here as a separate item. Yeah, another investment in the emergency program for this coming year, $137,000. Some work towards transit, solid waste, little bit of recreation. There's one project that the directors are looking to reconsider the funding source for tomorrow when we actually vote on the recommendations that came out of committee, which is the relocation of the contact water pond up at the landfill. So that's a $520,000 project that's being suggested. It was being proposed to be funded from taxation, and directors want to have a conversation tomorrow about funding it from the regional district's Growing Communities Fund instead. So that one project represents 50% of the increase to the landfill budget for this coming year from taxation. So if we can get that funded from some other means, that's going to make a big difference too. But the preliminary number, the impact on residential assessments in the district of Sechelt is 9.3% for the SCRD portion of the tax bill. So I think I'll leave it there and let Councillor Inkster fill in from his perspective.
Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, which is quite substantially down from last year, as far as I can recall the figures. That I think it was circulated a few days ago. It was like was it not 17%? Yeah, so it's quite, the district of Sechelt portion is down substantially from last year's budget from the information that I was provided. So this group has worked really hard to lower that tax hit. The pond issue and the funding issue, the working fund that you referred to, that may mean that there's some further conversations that will have to occur, I believe, from our discussions with the district of Sechelt. Because we're looking at options, right? Yeah. So, Chair, it's a little bit of crosstalk here because there's some balls in the air trying to lower taxation. So we're still working on it. Councillor Chair Toth there was a lot of discussion. I think was it yesterday? It gets blurry. Yeah, there were the 2 long days. But there was some discussion about how we work together to not only deal with one of the strategic plan initiatives, the strat plan, because there's 2 in one 10-year piece, and deal with some of our waste issues, but also there's some other pieces within the budget that are dealing with water. And I'm sure council's aware that we're looking at just licensing for Langdale, but not necessarily construction at this point because of the cost. but if we don't do that, we're hoping and or looking at West Seashelt as an example, or Seashelt wells as from local sources. But those also have costs of treatment and delivery, right? So everything has a cost. So those are some of the considerations, because Councillor Toth, myself and others pushed for more well drilling in the Seashelt area to keep one of the larger consumers closer to the sources. So we keep pushing for that. As was mentioned, I have all the documents here, so Councillor McLaughlin's not here, but Councillor Shepherd might want some of these. I can hand them off some pertinent, some good stuff. And what I would say,
By
because
the way, that's it, because they're alternates on the SCRD.
yeah, well, yeah,
I'm
Councillor
offering them
Shepherd,
to all of us.
yeah. He might want some extra reading, I just have a feeling, but yeah, there's some stuff here that if they wanted, I can give some pertinent stuff. There's some really good tables in here that would be good for the alternates to know. But yeah, as has been said, there's two important discussions. I think flow is a discussion tomorrow, and the one that you were just referring to, the funding sources. So that's important. And there's some expenditures on the rec facilities as well that we've had to make decisions on, but that's all about asset management.
So what's
Yeah.
next in the process tomorrow to presumably ratify and negotiate or discuss a few things, but when is the budget finalized? Likely?
Within 3 to 4 weeks, is it not?
I
Yeah.
think the plan is to bring the financial plan bylaw for first readings to the February 22nd meeting cycle. And then I think the adoption would be the meeting after that.
Yeah, and in reference to that, like I said, the documents are here for anybody, and we give tables counsel is if there is questions, because obviously the representatives at the table entertain those at this table. It'd be good to have them now or soon. I'd prefer public questions to us, and then I can get the information to bring it back publicly to this council as well, and I'm sure we can get those answers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that's really important, council. With those of us who are not at the board table, this is our chance to give you some of our thoughts, and but first we'll hear from Councillor Toth.
Thank you. One thing I did forget to mention that I wanted to bring up for council is that one of the things that we're going to be discussing at Committee of the Whole tomorrow morning is whether the Sunshine Coast Regional District should be declaring a climate emergency. I know there's some conversation about, scaling back from the term emergency and things like that, but I just wanted council to be aware of that. And that right now, that's the most current thing that's in the public realm, but even the terminology of climate emergency is looking at being scaled back on tomorrow. So.
Great, thank you. Please, Councillor Shepherd.
Is just a question connected to that. Is this regarding the low snowpack this year?
No, it's more about our world being on fire. Okay. Just climate change overall. It's not precipitated by anything specific or local. It's more global.
Please, Councillor Rowe.
So on that note, as we all just came back, well, most of us from LGLA, where infrastructure risk and emergency, all things emergency were sort of the theme. What has been the discussion through budget around that budget around emergency preparedness and sorry.
Talk to me. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
just
Yes.
because otherwise you're favoring one of the two
Okay.
reps.
Yes, Darren, Councillor Inkster, to finish my thought. Yeah, it's nice to see you. I can't even remember where I was going now. That's why I don't look this way, because you're so darn good looking. I just like,
Thank you.
oh yeah, you too. Okay. Okay, this one's getting lots of views, this YouTube. Anyways, was there discussion around that budget at all, looking to do more, needing more money, et cetera,
Emergency
around
preparedness.
emergency
Yes.
preparedness? Because as I think Councillor Toth puts it right, with the world's on fire.
Right.
And,
I'll put that question to Counselor Toth.
well, the other thing, your worship, if I could,
Yes,
just one more thing,
please.
does declaring a climate emergency open us up for any other
Mhm.
types of funding?
Okay, that's a good question, not to be answered, but worth taking back. and-
Councilor Todd, alluded to some extra funding in the emergency preparedness area, if that's what you're referring to. We can provide council with the exact funding pieces because, as I said, it's in here, but it's easy to find once that question's asked and we know what you'd like to know. But there was a number of decision papers, as you may know, council wrote a number of decision papers that budget on emergency preparedness and extra funding for those areas, as well as some grants from the province. The province is increasing the grants for those areas, but I would we will continue to apply for them regional district and or put plans in place because it's a regional government, but I would encourage the district of Sechelt to look for those grants to deal with the climate concerns that we have. Always, so.
I'll jump in if I may, because I know it occurs to me when we had our meeting, we met with the Sechelt Community Associations Forum 2 weeks ago. That was the top priority, I think it's fair to say, of all the community associations. Do we have enough plans in place, which translates for this conversation?
Yeah.
Do we have enough budgeted to perhaps do the plans and do the trial runs or the mock emergencies or whatever the proper term would be?
I don't- yeah. I don't think we do, but I'm not
Okay.
being alarmist. I just think we need to focus on those areas.
So
Fire
that's
smart.
something to take for tomorrow.
Yeah, to talk
Right.
about that. We need to, even at our table, we need to start talking more about mitigation and resilience. We don't do enough of that. But I noticed that Fire Smart is going to the Davis Bay Association very soon.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that they're doing through the regional district. It's a very active program and a lot of our community associations are doing it. And I think I asked them to contact Lynn to see if she could get in contact with some associations to make sure that they are involved. But we should be doing more than just Fire Smart, because that's about fire smarting your home. But it's not about fires that are coming from the forest into things.
So you'll be taking that up tomorrow with the SCRD.
Yeah, we always,
Yeah.
I mean, I talk about it at this table.
I know,
they're
but-
gonna
but
do it at that table.
In this
Yeah.
part of the agenda, I think that's the way I look at this, that it's our chance to give you
Yeah.
some insights into
Yeah,
what,
if certainly if I have your backing, I can mention that.
these,
yeah.
yeah.
So there were 5 budget proposals for Sunshine Coast Emergency programming at round 2 that were approved. And so that was $62,500 for a 3-year contract for community evacuation planning. And the idea being, it's great when we get the grants, but the grants aren't enough. And we know that. And so that's gonna help with developing more community evacuation plans. We doubled the emergency support services director position from 0.1 to 0.2 FTE. So big improvement. We've recommended a emergency management technician for 1.0 FTE. So that'll be somebody that's doing more of this day-to-day planning, paperwork, making sure the kit, the gear, all of that is kept up and current. There's $20,000 proposed for Sunshine Coast Emergency Program, like after hours program contact. Because right now it's sort of ad hoc off the side of the desk, whoever. And there was also $48,000 that was provided in provincial capacity funding for Emergency and Disaster Management Act Indigenous engagement. And my understanding is that the District of Sechelt and Town of Gibson's actually also received a little bit of funding for that same sort of effort. So it'll be interesting to see how that all coalesces. Thanks.
And I think, and Councillor Shepherd could reconfirm, but the community associations really want to hear not just dollars, but what are the results? Like, when are we going to have an evacuation plan that works in Tawanek? I remember that one being hammered. We were hammered on that one a little bit. So take that, I think, as feedback from our community. Any other ones, council, for our 2 reps? I did read the agenda. I was, I guess, in a sense, pleased to see the map of the potential fire flow issues. pleased in the sense that there are virtually none of any significant concern in Sechelt. There's certainly other source areas of concern, but I think it's worth looking at, the process that got us to this position where there's been a lot of concerns and worry and angst in the community, and I would have been nice to if avoided that if we could. So that's perhaps from me. And what are we gonna do for water this summer? Not directly a budget item, but my contribution. You're looking, no, okay. Okay, anything else for our SCRD reps? Move on. Oh, I didn't come ready for this. Counselor Inkster, want to go first? No, you went first last time. What? Council reports. Counselor Rowe will go first. Thank you.
I don't have much to report other than attending LGLA, which was actually better than it was advertised. I was surprised. The agenda looked a bit like a snore fest, but there was actually some really good discussion and really good chats.
PowerPoint.
Well,
No, I would agree. I think that the presenters brought some
yeah,
energy and enthusiasm to some
Yeah.
topics that might be not considered to be the most enlivening.
and there was a bit of interaction actually, which has been something that I haven't seen at a conference before. So that's it for me.
Great.
Thanks.
Counselor Shepherd, I gave you the nudge.
We've already touched on LGLA. It was a great conference, just some of the seminar on climate impact and the impact on municipal finances is shocking. So I'm really hoping for that follow-up, that we get those set of slides. Because that's something that we've got to review in terms of our own priorities going forward. I think, thanks for touching upon the meeting of the community associations, because there is a lot of anxiety. I think to your comment, which I relayed to the community associations,
Yeah.
that fire smarting has, because of being so well funded, it is sort of permeating all of the community associations. They're very happy with how it's rolled out. And we did explain there's just been such a shortage of funding at the regional level that emergency planning for fires, it's just coming along slowly. But as we've heard today, the funding is going to be there in the 2024 budget. So that's great to see. I attended the quarterly policing update to look at trends, and a meet and greet with the Sunshine Coast Labor Council, which was my first time attending, and interesting to meet those folks. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Counselor Bell,
Yes, same.
microphone,
basically.
please.
Yes. Attended the quarterly policing meeting. It's always good opportunity to get updates on what's happening in the community on the front line. Agree that the Leadership Academy was interesting. Lots around asset management, which I think was the first time that I've heard that much of a focus on asset management. I think it really points to a couple of things, that there's a concern around the climate change and what kind of impact it's happening on infrastructure, but also just around that there is a lot of infrastructure deficit in a lot of municipalities, and how are they going to pay for it? So lots of concerns around that. I attended the Thriving Communities Committee meeting, and this group is a group to develop, design, and deliver a community action project on poverty reduction. And what they're doing is each month they're having a theme so that they can do education for the community. And they're doing it in a very, very sort of innovative way. They've gone to the pubs, talked to people and had very informal discussions and found that that was very effective, actually, especially to get to the younger people. And in January, they did a presentation at the Seaside Center, and the theme was on housing and supports, more affordable housing for people. 50 people turned up at Seaside Center. And the next month is February. This February is Be the Change theme is community economic development, wages and workforce, more opportunities, more jobs, income support, and closing the gap between the living wage. So just wanted to shout out that on February 10th, one of the events is at a workshop in partnership with the Sunshine Coast Credit Union, and they're going to offer in-person finance coaching and a program called Each One Teach One. It's designed to deliver information and empower individuals to support money management and make the best financial decisions for themselves and their families. And also they're going to do introduction to basic budgeting, open to everyone, and it's free. So just encourage, if anyone, there is a link on the Resource Center website if people want to register that, and you do need to register.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Saturday, yeah.
Counselor Inkster,
Yeah,
budget.
yeah, it's regional district. I didn't go to LGLA. I'm hoping that some council members have some information they can pass on to me if in fact they've taken notes and or received handouts. They don't do it as much anymore.
The handouts will be coming, but
That could be coming to us. I know that Jennifer's looking for that because I've asked for that. So I'm hoping, because there's good information, but I was just so busy last week. So I didn't even miss you guys. I was that busy. But yeah.
I think we can agree that it's mutual.
I don't know. I got at least one text, so I know that's not true. Anyway, yeah, so last week, very busy. Hope to get that information this week, regional district, as was mentioned. 2 long days because even between, we had to do number of us had to do some homework other than those that were just tired of looking at the material. I think Councillor Toth was tired of looking at the material by Monday night, but it was a lot of work. So, and there's more days. So, I'm going back to that report, but it's been that's a lot of work at the budget. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Hardworking Councillor Toth.
Thanks. Yeah, other than the hours and hours spent reviewing that document before we went into the budget meeting. Not a lot to report. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that are coming up. The Repair Cafe, which is normally here in the library once a month. This month they're gonna be at Trail Bay Center, actually on this Saturday. So if you got anything broken that needs fixing, these guys are awesome. And totally by donation. And then the other thing, which ties in back to the regional district, is Fire Smart. They're gonna they're gonna have 4 community engagement sessions also at Trail Bay Center. And so their first one is actually February 24th. So that'll be a great opportunity for members of the public to learn more about it, sign up for an assessment. They've got the horsepower to be doing these assessments for people. It's totally free of charge. They give you a recommendations report that you can use to improve your property. So if every member of council hasn't signed their homes up yet, hopefully you'll all be there on the 24th to sign up for assessments. Thanks.
Right. Write that down. Great. Well, I won't comment further on SCAF, the LGLA. The one piece I think most of council knows, in the spur of the moment, I put an email out to 19 mayors that were attending LGLA, and 16 of them showed up for a wonderful little session just to talk about the things and that we confront as mayors. What was interesting was the similarities. And some of we agreed at the beginning, we would keep a lot of it confidential because frankly, there's some people that are struggling with the roles and how to handle it. So I won't get into that, but we did all agree homelessness was a huge issue. The single biggest issue is the downloading of responsibilities from other governments. And it was fascinating. We had mayors from all over the province and everybody put their hand up saying, how do we work this way? And I think we all understand that. I had the pleasure of attending a Urban Zero Challenge Decarbonizing Communities Forum yesterday. And a number of elected officials as well as industry people, provincial and federal government reps. And we talked a lot about sustainable solutions. It was quite an enriching conversation when you hear somebody talking about how they're creating carbon or hydrogen rather, and using that. They're going to, of course, use it for fleet vehicles and that kind of thing. So, you know, there's some real optimism when you listen to a bunch of enthusiastic people that are out there trying to come up with a new opportunity. Council, I think you all know I'm off to Chile, Ottawa on Sunday. I don't know what footwear to take. Perhaps Councillor Bell, you could advise. I want to thank our MP, as usual. Mr. Weiler has been very helpful in arranging some meetings. On a lighter note, when I get back on the night of the 16th, the next day, the Sunshine Coast Electric Vehicle Association is hosting a drive-in movie at Blue Ocean Golf, which when you say, oh, but it's kind of cold, well, it's not cold in an EV because you put the windows up and you leave the heat on. So we'll be up at Blue Ocean Golf for Back to the Future is the movie. By donation, if you don't have an EV, find a friend who has one. Oh, that goes back to yesterday. We were reminded again, BC has the highest adoption rate in North America of EVs. And we know that here on the coast, we're pretty much the highest.
We also buy the most liquor.
Don't mix,
For the-
don't mix those.
For the
Don't mix
For the
them.
YouTube,
Yeah.
Councillor Rowe just informed us that we also buy the most liquor. Anyways, those who are so inclined, 5:30 at Blue Ocean, it'll be dark by the time we start the movie and we'll have some fun. I want to also congratulate Keith Julius, who was elected on the 3rd as councillor for our Sechelt neighbors. And I had the pleasure of having breakfast with him this morning to convey council's congratulations and support. Want to acknowledge staff who've been working under tremendously wonderful conditions since our leak. The fans blowing and the hammering and stuff has been a treat, I know. So thank you guys all for hanging in there, and hopefully it'll be over soon. Last but not least, I want to wish everybody a happy Lunar New Year. This weekend begins the Year of the Dragon, which is Kong Hei Fat Choi, Gong Si Fat Sai. So on that note, I'll leave it there, and we'll go to the correspondence, and this is from the Girl Guides about the blue. And I had a question because I must confess I don't know. What does lighting up in the color blue mean? Is it buildings? Are we supposed to wear?
I think it's for the light.
Oh, the tower. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if I should have been wearing a hat or something, but okay. So council, I think this is before us for information, and I'm sure our intrepid staff will figure out how to turn the lighthouse blue. Nope. Just to all
Turn it blue?
Are we supportive? All in favor?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And then one item to release from in camera, and certainly it's my pleasure. We're very fortunate that Mr. Bill McCreary has agreed to join the Advisory Planning Commission. For those who don't know, Bill is a long career and volunteer work in municipal government and planning, and well, I'm sure Mr. Allen would agree, and that he'll be a wonderful addition to APC. So great. All right. And do we, I guess we should confirm it. It's always the most bizarre thing, you know, what do? We don't confirm it. Okay, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Toth. Mr. Acting CAO, are there any emergency items?
Just the climate.
No, your worship.
Thank you. I will then entertain a motion to adjourn.